So it's that time of the year where it's the NHL Draft Lottery, and all the teams that got to go to Cancun early and didn't make the playoffs have a chance to win the first overall pick, who is by consensus Gavin McKenna. Now, every team has a chance to win, but the teams at the very bottom really do deserve it. The Vancouver Canucks were so bad this year, it probably would have been more entertaining to sit in the dark and try and watch paint dry in your room. They had an 18.5% chance to win this lottery going into it. The Blackhawks were behind them, then New York, Calgary, and Toronto. Now, you see that little asterisk right there beside the Leaf logo. That's because there's a condition on this Leaf pick. In a trade between Toronto and Boston last year that saw Brandon Carlo go to the Leafs in exchange for Fraser Minton and a first, that first was only top 5 protected. So if the Leafs drop out of the top 5, they give the Boston Bruins their pick. Now, in case you've been living under a rock, the Toronto Maple Leafs were a complete disaster this season. They went 7 games with the Florida Panthers last year, lost Mitch Marner, and then proceeded to have the season from hell. You had the superstars flipping off the cameras, their captain got cheap shotted, and no one did a damn thing. Combine that with injuries and all the other drama that comes in playing in Toronto, this season became a certified nightmare. They tanked so badly that they ended with the 5th best odds to get the number 1 pick. So it was a 42% chance that they get to keep their pick in general and a 58% chance that they had to give it to Boston. Now, the last 48 hours for the Toronto Maple Leafs has been absolutely crazy. On Monday, they introduced Matt Sundin as the senior executive advisor of hockey ops and the new GM, John Chayka. Now, that had Leaf fans and really the entire hockey world completely perplexed as to how the hell they ended up with this duo. Sundin, who is one of the most beloved Leaf captains in their franchise's history, had no front office experience, and John Chayka, in his last NHL stint, ended in controversy. He abruptly left the Coyotes while still under contract, reportedly pursuing another opportunity, which led to a suspension from the NHL. On top of that, the Coyotes lost draft picks after violating league rules around the scouting combine during his tenure. Add in the fact that the teams he built never really worked and other reports about how he handled certain relationships, it's easy to see why there is hesitation. But as the youngest tenured GM in NHL history, perhaps he's learned from some of his mistakes. And so the Leafs formally held a press conference with Chayka, Sundin, and CEO Keith Pelley, and the reaction from Leaf media did not hold back.
Steve Simmons.
Steve Simmons, Toronto Sun, for Keith. You talk about the due diligence that you did on John prior to hiring him and now hiring him. In the past, say 3 to 4 days, I have been in contact with about 20 people who work in the National Hockey League, many of whom are prominent names that we would all know. And of the 20 people I spoke to, one was supportive of John's hiring, and the other 19 thought it was a sham, to be perfectly honest. Words were used like con artist, liar, salesman. How did you come to a different conclusion that I was able to come to in a very short time?
I must have talked to different people.
That's it? Because I'm telling you, the hockey world today is astounded by this announcement.
Okay.
And your response to that?
Is we've conducted due diligence, and it was deep due diligence. It was a thorough process, and I'm quite happy with where we've landed.
After what was considered probably one of the most uncomfortable press conferences in franchise history, there was a lot of noise in Toronto as usual. The biggest one being reported by Chris Johnson the morning of the draft lottery that Auston Matthews reportedly wants to see meaningful roster improvements through trades and free agency before committing to another season in Toronto. And even though he's under contract for the next 2 years, with how we've seen some American captains leave already or have been rumored to be leaving Canada, it is a touchy subject. So that brings us to the draft lottery itself. There is a lot on the line here for a lot of teams. So we got Gary there, the machine guy in charge of all the ping pong balls, and one hell of a blue suit waiting to tell us the results. First ball is a 7. 7's heaven. Vancouver has the best odds at 19%. All right, 15-second countdown for the next number, and it pops up as a 2. All of a sudden, Seattle has the best odds with 18.2%. Gary's like, nah, we don't want that. Give me the next ball, please. It's 11. So Vancouver goes back up to the best odds with a 27.3% chance of winning the draft lottery with 1 ball to go. The Rangers are second with 18.2%, while everyone else is hovering around 9%. So quick little commercial break, let everyone's arseholes pucker in Vancouver, and then see who gets the number 1 pick. These are the magic numbers for each franchise. So Gary says, start the clock. 3, 2-1. Ball pops up. What is it? What is it? Is that a 12? Oh my God, it's a 12. The Toronto Maple Leafs get the number 1 pick. The camera pans to Sundin. He's smiling ear to ear like he just farted in a bathtub and is laughing at the bubbles. He is giddy, and with just an 8.5% chance to win the draft lottery going into this, the Leafs come out with the number 1 pick, and the hockey world collectively says this shit's got to be rigged. The Toronto Maple Leafs have missed the playoffs twice in the past 10 years, and they've won the lottery both times. They are the most productive losers of this decade. The Sharks, however, actually end up getting the 2nd overall pick, and they may be the biggest winners in all of this. They got maybe the brightest future in the NHL, and now they're adding another top talent. Vancouver, however, can't catch a break. Here's all their fans being absolutely heartbroken after finding out not only did they lose the 1st overall pick, but they lost it to the Toronto Maple Leafs. John Chayka, 2nd day on the job, is all of a sudden GM of the year, and just like that, the parade is back on in Toronto. Now, the real question is, who do the Leafs take? Yes, the consensus number 1 pick is Gavin McKenna, but right there is also Ivar Stenberg. Both are wingers, though, and the Leafs' biggest problem and perhaps the biggest hole has been moving the puck in their own end and having a true number 1 defenseman. Watching them trying to break out the puck this year was an absolute disaster, but based on scouting reports, the drop-off after 1 and 2 is significant. So really, it comes down to either McKenna or Stenberg. Gavin McKenna can be a franchise-altering offensive talent. His defining trait is elite level. Said his game is still offense first. He's not overly physical yet, and his defensive impact is still just more of a projection than reality. If everything hits, you're looking at a dynamic Kucherov-style winger who can finish near the top of the league in scoring. Of course, though, you have some off-ice stuff that raises some questions, but personally, I'd take a kid who lays a right hook on someone in defense of his mom being harassed. Honestly, the Leafs could probably use someone who sticks up for their own. Ivar Stenberg, on the other hand, is a bit different stylistically. He's built on efficiency, structure, and pro-level decision-making rather than high-end flash. He's got the ability to be flashy and make those crazy plays, but consistently, he makes quick, correct reads with the puck, and he generates offense through support play, give-and-go sequences, and finding soft ice rather than trying to beat defenders one-on-one. In structured leagues like the SHL, his style translates really well because it doesn't rely on open space to be effective. He creates value through positioning, anticipation, and clean puck decisions. Defensively, he's a bit more mature, and he's shown the ability to stay connected to structure. He tracks back responsibly, and his defensive game is more intact than others at his age. Some scouts have said that he doesn't have the explosive separation or dynamic skill to consistently take over shifts on his own, but that's probably because he's playing against men over there in Sweden. Now, knowing that the Leafs are going to reload, the question is who's going to fit better with Auston Matthews. Both are going to be an upgrade from his current situation from last year, where in general, a lot of plays died on his wing. Matthews' game is heavily reliant on give and goes as well, and with no Marner there to facilitate or find him through seams or use delay plays to create open space for Matthews himself, he had the least productive season of his career. Putting either one of these 18-year-old kids on his wing will automatically help Matthews create more offensively. However, with the offensive ceiling of McKenna and his high-end playmaking, it's likely Toronto goes down that route. But hey, it is still just the 2nd day on the job for both Sundin and Chayka, so maybe they shock everyone and go off the board. So, what do you think about the Toronto Maple Leafs getting the 1st overall pick? Who do you think they take with the pick? Will they be a playoff team yet again next season? Let us know in the comments down below. And as always, if you want more NHL playoff breakdowns, you can check out any of our videos here and subscribe while turning on notifications so that you don't miss a single thing.